Hey ladies and gentlemen, Steven here from Redolessence, and welcome back to another video. Thank you so much for joining me today. Happy weekend everybody if you're watching this on the day that I'm publishing it. And in today's episode, we're going to be taking a closer look at a brand new original creation by the company Dua Fragrances, and this one is called Plum Cigarillo, so make sure to stay tuned. Now, before I begin my fragrance review of Plum Cigarillo by Dua Fragrances, I do want to mention that if you are a fan of fragrance-related content, if you like fragrance reviews here on YouTube, but also top 10 lists, giveaways, unboxings, pretty much anything having to do with fragrances, please do consider supporting this channel by subscribing to it. All you have to do is click on that red button in the corner. And of course, while you're at it, please make sure to enable notifications by clicking on the bell icon. This way, whenever I do put out these videos, they will get delivered straight to your feed. You never need to worry about missing any of my future uploads. So as I'm sure many of you know, the company Dua makes inspired expressions, aka clones, and from time to time they also have original creations. I think their current pace is like 1 or 2 originals per month. Sometimes they have more, sometimes they have fewer, but in this case I saw the note breakdown and I knew that this was one of the fragrances that I had to get my nose on ASAP, and I'm a happy owner at the moment. So there is going to be vanilla, there's going to be some sultry and resinous notes, a lot of spicy notes, cinnamon, allspice, but then there's also this note of plum in the opening, which I think is really delectable, and it kind of reminds me of some other fragrances I have that I absolutely love, and so I'm more than happy to make comparisons throughout the course of this review, and I'm excited to tell you about the smell. Let's start things off with the presentation. So the box for this one is quite simple. If you've seen one, you've seen them all. It just has the logo here on the front, the concentration at the side, and then you have all of your ingredients on the back. On the inside of the box is a little description and a silhouette in which the bottle rests. And here's the bottle for this fragrance in particular. It just has the name on the side, it has the logo here on the front, and then the cap's on the top. The cap for this fragrance does click into place, so you can pick it up from the cap. The distribution on the atomizer is nice and wide. Let's continue with the smell. So in the opening of this fragrance, it opens up just a little bit fresh, but nothing overly citrusy, and it's certainly not in aquatic territory or ozonic or anything like that. Just a little bit of citrus just to make the opening that much more interesting. Now, it very quickly segues into this vanillic, spicy, and slightly tobacco-leaning fragrance. So if you're familiar with fragrances like Tobacco Vanille by Tom Ford, part of the Private Blend line, you're going to get something quite similar in this fragrance. And I'm only saying that in the sense that I find the vanilla that's used in here to be kind of along the same pace and of the same style as Tobacco Vanille, and that's also one of my favorite fragrances of all time. Many years ago I actually purchased a bottle for myself, and I still wear it quite a bit to this day. I actually have it right behind me here on the shelf. So I really enjoyed this fragrance to the extent that it kind of reminds me of a lot of my favorite plum-based fragrances without really smelling like them, and I like that. It's not a direct reflection of any plum-based scents that I have. So I love Andy Warhol by Bond No. 9, discontinued now. Plum Japonais by Tom Ford is another one, but that one was a little bit balmy for my taste, and it's a little bit ethereal, whereas this one has that juiciness of the plum in the opening, which is really well done in my opinion, but as you give it a chance to dry down, that sweet spicy vanilla, very similar to the one that you're going to find in Warm Black by Zara or Tobacco Vanille by Tom Ford, that's going to come out, and it really sort of overtakes the composition. Now, I see a lot of other notes in the note breakdown. I can't necessarily say that I'm picking up on all of them. Sure, I believe that they're in there and they all have their own role and they function to create the overall olfactory picture, if you will. But for me personally, it's all about the spice, more so leaning on the side of cinnamon, the vanilla, the tobacco nuance in the base, but that plum in the opening, which is so juicy and so ripe and perfect for this time of the year. And not only that, but it can withstand the harshness of the winter, because on my skin I got really good longevity from this one. Let's go ahead and finish things off with my overall assessment. So first up, in terms of the uniqueness and the overall smell, this is certainly a unique fragrance. The only 2 other fragrances that I can compare it to, and I guess 3 if you really think about it, is Tabac Rouge by Phaidon, Tobacco Vanille by Tom Ford, and then of course we also have Warm Black by Zara. So if you're familiar with that sort of a DNA, that's pretty much what you're going to get from this fragrance. Very heavy on the spices and the vanilla, with the inclusion of plum, making it just a delectable fragrance. Overall smell is very appealing. However, you have to be a fan of those denser, sweeter, darker, more mysterious fragrances to really appreciate this one. In terms of the longevity, 10 plus hours on my skin. This is concentrated at extrait de parfum concentration. Projection was fantastic for the first 2 hours of application. It didn't start to sit closer to the skin until about that 7-hour mark. So longevity and performance is very, very, very good. The versatility for this one, I probably wouldn't wear it in the hotter weather. I would definitely wear it in the colder weather. This is also a formal type of a fragrance. If you love the smell enough, I think it's affordable enough that you can get away with wearing it casually, so no qualms there. And I also find it to be perfectly unisex, and I think somebody who's perhaps a little bit older would have more of an appreciation for this one as opposed to somebody who's in high school or early college or something like that. If they're still in the clubbing scene, you know what I mean? But last up, presentation. You guys know my thoughts on the presentation. I think the graphic on the bottle is also kind of cool, but you can really make out what it is when you look at it from a distance as opposed to close up. But my final verdict on this fragrance is, if you are a fan of vanilla, if you're a fan of tobacco, if you're a fan of spices, and especially if you're a fan of plum, definitely check this fragrance out while they still have stock, because from my experience, whenever they do launch a fragrance, it's usually sold out within 2 to 3 weeks. And so I know that that happens to be the case with a lot of their originals. I actually checked recently, and one of my favorite originals by them is called Flagship, and it's sold out at the moment. So just try to get it when you can. And I personally love this one, and I will be putting this one to good use. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining me today. I really do appreciate your time and your viewership. That was my fragrance review of Plum Cigarillo by Dua Fragrances. If you own or have tried this fragrance or any of their other fragrances, including original creations, hybrids, clones, I'm always curious to know what you think. Leave a comment down below. Also, please don't forget to subscribe for future videos. And of course, that includes top 10s, reviews, unboxings, and more. Thanks again for watching. I love you guys, and we'll see you next time.